Right, we are live.
Hey guys, welcome to the Marriage Cookbook. Christian and I today are going to just come up here real quick to redo the video for being young and married, tips and treasures. Our audio wasn't working properly, so we wanted to just come up here real quick and do that video again and give you guys some tips and treasures for being young and married in relationship. And there were three areas that Christian and I discussed. The three topics were goals, priorities, and essentials. So we'll jump right into it. We do have the comment section open. So if we're having any technical difficulties, or if you have any questions or comments, feel free to comment in the comment section. So our first area is goals. And with goals, we broke it down to individual goals, goals together, and goals as a family. It is extremely important to set goals in your marriage and to have goals in each of those aspects. So individual goals, that's really important to me because a lot of my focus, most of our marriage has been on our family. So it is also important, and it has also been important for me to learn how to set individual goals for myself, because when I need a break from my family, for those of you that have kids or are just married, it's important to have a break and have that time to just refresh and rejuvenate so that I can be my best for my family. So it's important that you have individual goals for yourself outside of your family, things that you enjoy doing, things that are going to actually rejuvenate you and make you feel good. You don't want to do something that is going to be stressful or cause you more stress or to not be in a good place for your family. So set individual goals for yourself. The next one is goals together. What kind of goals can couples set together?
I think one of the things that we realized is that, being accountability partners was pretty awesome for us. So when we worked out, we had individual goals, but then we decided that having a goal together, working out, was awesome. And it helped us be accountable to each other. So at times when I was struggling, I would, look to Sharita, and she would kind of motivate me to, continue pushing through. And when she would struggle, I would do the same thing. I would wake her up and we would just continuously do the things together. So having goals together is pretty important. And it's something that we found that was super essential to our relationship. Other goals can be, just kind of like things that we wanted to do, like in the relationship. Yeah.
So, you hear a lot of people go #relationship goals, but you really need to have relationship goals. So maybe thinking about what you want your relationship to look like 15 years from now, what you want your finances to look like 15 years from now. So make sure that when you're setting those goals, you're thinking about what you want your relationship to look like in the future, and the things that you do on a regular basis, on a consistent basis, will ultimately help you get there. So those steps, those things you do on a daily basis, you have to be thinking about what you're doing so that you can get to that goal, to where you need to be. Hey, Mike, how you doing? So also setting goals for your family.
Absolutely.
That is extremely important as well.
Yeah. So for the family goals, we wanted to basically discuss the things that we were looking forward to. So what do we want our kids to look like, when they left the house? We wanted them to be humble. We wanted them to be confident. We wanted to be good men and women that added to society, not being a plague or, just a bad influence. We wanted them to be a good influence. We talked about each other. We wanted to be a good couple that when people saw us, they saw that we stood for something positive. We stood for importantly for Christ. Mm-hmm. And just the things like that. That was very important to us, is just to have a different focus for the family. What did we want people to see, not only in us but in our children moving forward?
Mm-hmm. And then goals, for your family as well. You think about being in a relationship. So you want to know, okay, what kind of discipline are we going to have for our kids? What kind of atmosphere do we want to have for our kids? Is love important? Is discipline important? And everything you do on a regular basis is going to be affected by what your goal is for your family. So if love is important, no matter what your children do, that is going to be kind of a forefront in the decisions that you make with how you discipline them. Because I'm not saying don't discipline, but that's going to be at the forefront. So having those goals set for your family, having goals set for your children specifically. What kind of grades do you want to make this year? What are your goals for this year? Are you trying out for any sports or any activities? Mm-hmm. So you need to start working on that now, because when tryouts come, it's going to be too late. You can't practice then. You need to be able to get to that point to where you're going to make that team or help yourself to get to that goal. So setting goals for your family is important. Is there anything else you want to add to goals? You have, talking about writing them down and sharing them.
So one of the things that we saw that was extremely important when it came to goals is making them visible. Making them visible and writing them down. Mm-hmm. And then lastly is sharing them. So I'll kind of quickly go over those. So an important thing for you to do is share your goals with your spouse and with your children. One of the things that I realized is as ambitious as I was and as goal-driven as I was, at times I would put the family in a little bit of an uncomfortable position because they didn't know what direction I was going, whether it was trying to get a promotion, whether it was trying to do something for the family. If I didn't share it with them, they didn't know what direction I was going. So there's different times of the year where I, get focused on, preparing myself to study and get ready for like a certain, obstacle that I'm getting ready to face. And once I started sharing with my wife, she would make sure that I had the right atmosphere ready. I had the right environment. She would, encourage the kids to do certain things to not distract dad. And so that was really important. So when I started sharing my goals with Sharita, she was able to better help me, and we were better able to communicate the things that needed to happen during that time. Mm-hmm. Now, writing them down was something that I got from Stephen Covey a few years ago. It was really early in our relationship where I decided to write down my goals and put them in an envelope. And a funny story is I had wrote down these goals and I said, do not open on the envelope until I was 30. And one day Sharita was cleaning and she was going through and she went through one of the drawers that we had. She was organizing the drawers and she found the envelope and she goes, hey, what is this, Chris? And I laughed and I said, don't show it to me. Don't tell me. I don't even open it. And then so she's like, well, I want to see what it is. So she opened it. She read through it and she was like, wow. And I was like, what? And I was like, no, don't tell me. And she's like, wow. And then I said, okay, share with me, but don't tell me exactly what I wrote down. Mm-hmm. So then she said, you've reached all your goals. And ironically enough, when I was, I think it was 24, 25, I had wrote down the goals and I told myself that I wanted to achieve them by the time I was 30. But the power was that when you write down your goals, Steve Covey had shared that, your mind instinctively works towards the goals. It breaks down all barriers and it starts working towards those goals. Mm-hmm. So writing it down was awesome. But I think retrospectively, what I should have done is written them down, shared them with my wife so that she can see, so that she can maybe, at the same time, work towards those goals as well. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, making them visible. So, for us, one of the things that we like to do is kind of like write down the things that we want to do as a family, whether it's chores, whether it's just different things. But writing it down is awesome because, for us, we realize that, we can't do it on our own. And, at times, like say, for example, we want to get ready for Thanksgiving. We just went through a big holiday, Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there.
I hope you enjoyed.
We hope you enjoyed it. You spent time with family. And one of the things that we realized is, if we wrote down the things that we wanted to accomplish, we want to make mashed potatoes, we want to make, whatever it is, but you wrote it down. And then the kids come by and they're like, how can I help? And then they see the list or the goals that you have to accomplish. They can easily say, Mom, can I help you with this? Dad, can I do this? Mm-hmm. And then now as a family, you guys can accomplish the goals faster and more productive than you would have on your own. So writing them down, making them visible and sharing them is critical when you have goals.
Mm-hmm. And then one thing I thought about when you were talking about your envelope story, when I shared it with you, it's important to share them so that people can celebrate with you as well. Mm-hmm. You have a goal or you have an accomplishment and you accomplish it and nobody knows it but you. You're going to have, it's okay to have a celebration and be excited and treat yourself. But if other people know it, people in your life that, will be excited and celebrate with you, it's important that, people have that opportunity to not only help you achieve those goals mm-hmm. and get there, but also to celebrate with you because people want to do that. If you do something exciting or you achieve a goal, people, a lot of people will want to celebrate with you more than you You probably
Absolutely.
know. So the next topic or area that we're talking about is priorities. So just knowing what your priorities are on a daily, weekly basis, knowing what your priorities are concerning your goals overall,
Yeah.
because with your goals, like we talked about, having your individual goals, having your goals together, your relationship goals,
Mhm.
and also having your family goals, knowing what your goals are will also influence what your priorities are on a daily basis. So if you have a financial goal, a priority is looking at our finances on a weekly basis. If you have a fitness goal, it's working out on a daily basis or, X amount of times a week. So having those goals help you establish what priorities you have on a daily or weekly basis. So that's super important, because knowing what your priorities are and making them visible, kind of like what Christian was talking about, will definitely help you to, achieve your goals and be more productive. Because, we talk about having different personalities. Chris is more of a task-oriented person. I'm more of a relational person. So what we found helpful is that when I write down my priorities on the board, I may be doing something more relational and get me off task to the things that I have to do that I said was a priority for my day. And Christian comes home, or somebody comes home and they see, okay, these are the priorities for the day. Somebody can jump right in and help me because something came up. One of the kids might have had a stressful day, or I might needed to do something else, because I'm more relational. It's important for me that this environment and everybody feels, loved and welcome. So I may get distracted and sidetracked with priorities at times. So it's good to write them down. Did you have anything to add to that?
I did. So one of the things that I realized is, I talk a lot with my friends. I share kind of like stories. And one of the things that I've realized is, the way that we grow and we develop ourselves is by sharing the things that we learn. So as you learn something, the best way to like let it kind of like sink in is to share it. And, I was sitting down with somebody and they had told me that they were having a hard time with, just the things that they wanted to accomplish. And they're like, man, I don't have enough time in the day. And then, it made me think, and I paused for a second and I said, okay, Chris, you're driven, you're goal oriented. Do not give them the answer. Help them think through this process. So as we were talking, he kept, going back and saying, how he was struggling with, not having enough time in the day to get all the things that he wanted to get done. Mm-hmm. And then, so I asked, hey, so what are you doing to help you, get through the day? I'm trying to manage my time. I'm trying to make sure that I focus on, what I can do on a daily basis and look at the time. And I said, okay, great. That's phenomenal. But guess what? You can't manage time. We all have 24 hours. So regardless of what you do, you have 24 hours. Now, what you can do is shift your mindset from focusing on time to priorities. If you focus on your priorities and you write them down, you will accomplish so much more. Now, one thing that me and Sharita started doing is to not overwhelm ourselves. We would take 3 things that we want to accomplish for the day. These will be our top 3 priorities, and we'll write them down and we'll, kind of try to track them. And what we realized is that sometimes we would get through those 3 tasks right away, and then we can add more. Now, you may be thinking, well, why not do 10 tasks? Well, if you do 10 tasks and you don't get through the 10 tasks, you will get easily discouraged. This is a quick way to just give yourself wins for the day. You go through and you give yourself quick wins. I'll get 3 priorities that I want to get done and get them done. And in the past, I would always work on the easiest task first to get a quick win and then move myself forward. But now what I've started doing is I've worked on the hardest task first, get that done, and then get me some smaller wins along the way to build momentum throughout the day. And one of the things that you can do, and, one of the things that me and Sharita joked about is, like making the bed. One quick task, you make the bed, good to go, and it's awesome. So when you make your bed, you have one goal accomplished, one priority done, and you move forward. So you feel that success. Quick wins are awesome. And yes, Mike, we agree. Quick wins are great. So that's one of the things that we wanted to share with the priorities, just to kind of like let you guys know that those are really helped us become more productive and become, better at helping each other out and not, trying to do it on our own.
So that kind of goes right into our next topic. That was good. I'm glad you shared that and added that. The last area that we wanted to discuss was essentials. And for me, I kind of look at these more like traditions. What do you want to do in your relationship, in your family, to where things are memorable? What type of things do you want to remember doing in your relationship over a long period of time? Hey, for the past 15 years, we've done this every year for Thanksgiving or for Christmas.
Absolutely.
And even with your kids, with your family, thinking about things that you want to do on a regular basis. So some of the things that we wrote down and thought about, which were good traditions, and we just wanted to share them. And one of them was having a organized chore chart.
Yeah. And what's funny is, as we wrote a lot of these things down, we realized that we were speaking to each one of our personalities, because we're all different. And so what we notice is that if we speak each other's love languages, we become way more productive, because we're not doing the things in the manner that we would want, but in the manner that everybody else needs to be taught to, right? So, being organized and having a chore chart and having like things that we want to get accomplished, that speaks to my love language. That speaks to me being always, task oriented, mission focused. I want to get things done in a nice and orderly manner. So having chores, great. That speaks to the D personality, right? And then, those things are pretty cool, because now we see, okay, that's Chris. So we know we got to get this done.
And it's also important for our kids to know, hey, you're getting this done on this day. You're making sure that we're teaching them these things as well. So it's not just speaking to Christian, yes. It's also helping them and teaching them to be well-balanced individual, because as much and as important as it is to be relational, it's also important to get stuff done, because if they're not getting things done, then it's not going to be beneficial at all, because we'll all be lovey-dovey around the house and nothing will get done. And that was really helpful for me, because that was my focus. Just, an environment of love and making sure our kids feel love. But I was frustrated at the end of the week when, we spent so much time as a family doing X, Y, and Z, and they weren't necessarily getting their stuff done like they were supposed to. So I had to go behind them and clean up behind them. And when you're almost 13 and when you're 15, that's not fun.
No.
So definitely that has been helpful. One of the other things that we talked about was kids just being wise, which they are. However, over the years, just especially being military, we've seen with our boys, once they got to middle school, once they got a little bit older, a lot of parents just almost taking a step back and feeling like, oh, okay, you're in middle school now. I don't need to teach you anything anymore. I don't need to be involved anymore. I don't need to help you with this anymore. And that's one thing that we have definitely been intentional about. Everything that we're learning, everything that we're doing, we try to teach them so that they can continue to learn and grow. And even as they get older, just being intentional about teaching them different things, teaching them. And it may look different as they get older. What I taught you at 7, I may still need to reiterate it, but it's going to look a little bit differently. Even though I'm teaching you how to respect people and how to be kind and loving, it's going to look different talking to my 15-year-old than it does when I talk to my 6-year-old, because I taught him that at 6. But at 15, when pressures come and kids around you aren't necessarily doing the things that you've been taught at home, I still need to reiterate that. So not taking that step back and feeling like, okay, they're older now, they don't need to be taught. We don't need to sit down anymore. Nope, we still sit down. We still have powwows. We still have family times where we going over one of the John Maxwell books or one of the books that Christian is reading. We sit down and intentionally teach them the things that we're learning in the stuff that we read, and just doing a lot of things with them to help them grow.
And that's that, C personality. You're just being very structural and intellectual, so that they can ask questions and we can kind of like help them think through the process. Because we may not have all the answers, but we do know that if we talk about it, we can come to a solution together and understand, like, here's how we grow, here's how we get better, here's how we move forward. Go ahead.
And that's, we wrote down kids are wise. That's how we've learned that our kids are wise. Sitting down, talking to them and just feeling like, man, I can't believe that, that was the answer that you gave. I can't believe you understood that. Because if we explain something and we say, hey, give me an example as to how it relates to you in your everyday life, and they're able to explain that, we're like, wow, that's pretty impressive.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that's pretty good. And then, the next topic that we want to talk about is, one of the things that we found that's been really cool for us is like cooking together. So when you cook together, you bring in a new dynamic, right? So you have instructions, you have, depending on what you're like, say, for example, you're baking a cake, you have to have the ingredients, the dry ingredients separated from the wet ingredients. And then at a certain point, then you put them in. And so that helps speak into that different language of the intellectual being, that I personality, where that person wants to ask all these questions, or they're very inspirational, I guess. So they want to create something. They want to, use their creativity. And so when you make this cake and it comes out and then it not only looks good, but it tastes good, you speak to that. So it's funny because as we were writing these things down, we didn't realize that we were speaking to all of these personalities to kind of help us kind of like, bring the family together and do things that we all enjoy. But some of us may enjoy it more than others. The cooking in the kitchen and the creating, Genesis and Jalen, they love that. They love creating. And so that speaks to them.
So, and just that, speaking of the cooking together, we take a few times a month on Sunday and we decide, hey, what do we want to teach the kids how to cook, or what do we just want to make? And we make it together as a family. Everybody contributes to a certain part of making this dish or making this meal. So it's been fun. And it does speak to different aspects of our personalities. For me, us all just doing it together. I love it. And, those other aspects that Chris was kind of talking about, the intellectual part, speaks to, one of our other family members in a different way, but it all comes together and we're all doing something that's memorable, making a tradition that, our kids are going to remember. Oh, I remember growing up and us cooking together on Sundays. Oh, that's how I learned how to cook. Me and my family used to cook. We made spaghetti, or we made, whatever dish that we want to make, or we make a cake, or whatever it is.
And one of the things that we realize is that, for a long time, I think people have put the wrong, I think, concept around what being wealthy is like, what being rich truly is. And, if you think about, the people that are truly excited about life, they may not have a lot of money, but they make memories. One of my friends was sharing with me that, when she was growing up, she had neighbors that always went traveling all over the world, and how she kind of looked at them and was like, man, I wish I could do that. But her family did something that was even more special to her. Even more important, they would do things together. They would camp out in the living room. They would make s'mores. They would do things that was just, it made so much more of an impression to her that, she's a amazing woman. She has her own business, and the memory that she has had made her a better person because she truly values family and not wealth. She values, relationships and not financial blessings. So, when you think about that, there's a power in being rich and having the right things. So that's what we've tried to do, is just build an environment where our kids know that we love them, that Sharita and I know that we love each other, and that, when you see us, that, hey, this is the real deal. We do have struggles. We do have, struggles and things that come up, but that doesn't mean that we don't love each other. We don't enjoy each other, and we love being around each other. And that's what's important, is when you build that type of environment, when you leave the house, when you leave that type of environment, that regardless of what happens, when I come home, I have a safe place. I have a wonderful space. I have a place that I can get lifted, rejuvenated, and fired up to get back out and tackle the day.
That's good.
Yeah,
I like that. And then the last thing was just individual time with each family member. So, you're talking about relationships. Hey, do we need to set up days each week where we're going to have lunch together, or a date night? And then individual time with your kids as well. Because right now we're talking about essentials, traditions, things you want to do in your family to make memories, for you guys to remember, hey, this is what I remember doing growing up. This is how my family
Hi, Mom.
spent time together. This is what my family did on a regular basis. And hopefully, you know, those traditions will be a blessing and they will in turn, you know, kind of make them their own when they go out. So just spend an individual time, whether it's going to lunch with one of your kids,
Absolutely.
whether it's taking them out on a date to the movies or bowling or just out to eat with just you and that one child, going for a walk. There's so many different creative ways, and you speak to that child individually, because Chris can take one of our boys to the gym and play basketball, and that's their individual time, and they absolutely love that.
They absolutely love that.
Right.
And,
Genesis won't like that as much,
No.
but
no,
having a sleepover with her is
having a
fun.
sleepover,
Mhm.
you know, watching a movie with her. You know, me and Genesis, you know, almost every Friday now, she likes to kind of us do a movie night, and we do popcorn. We season the popcorn together, and we just sit there and watch the movie, and we'll, you know, snuggle or whatever. And she loves that. You know, my boys, they love going to the gym, hanging out, and they'll ask me to work them out. And in the past, I would have to like, hey, let's go work out. Now it's like, hey, Dad, can we go to the gym and do workouts? And so it's been awesome to kind of see the growth and the development. And you're right, you know, Betty, like you're never too old to grow, to learn and grow. And which is why we wanted to share a lot of the things that we're learning and growing. And we're learning a lot about ourselves, a lot about our kids, and how to better our relationship. And which is why we wanted to share as much as we can.
Mhm.
We'll see you, Mom.
Mhm.
But yeah, you know, just, you know, doing that. And one of the things that, you know, we kind of like alluded to, but like with the Sunday dinners, not only cooking, but we love to sit together as a family and just talk. You know, far too often we've seen now that we get so busy with the day-to-day, you know, grind that we don't make time to sit down together and eat at the table and just talk. How was your day? And it's funny because Sharita started doing it. Now, you know, Jalen will do it. Genesis will do it. You know, we'll sit down and she's like, how was your day? And it's almost like a race. Like somebody wants to ask how your day was. And so, you know, we talk about that and see what was going on. And it's a great time because as you continue to develop that relationship, you'll see that, you know, sometimes, you know, one of your kids may need a little bit more time after dinner to talk. And that's a great way for us to do that as we continue to communicate with them and openly talk about different things. They're more open to come and talk to us about different things. And they might say like, oh, you know, I just, you know, didn't have a good day with this. And that's awesome. And we wanted to do that. We always want to have a welcoming relationship with them where they know that they can talk to us at any time.
And then it's definitely been beneficial because you can see when one of them isn't having a good day, when they're not themselves, when you're spending that individual time with them, you know your kids and you know, hey, or you know your spouse and you
Absolutely.
know whether or not, hey, something's not right. Something happened at work or, you know, something happened to make you feel down or what have you. So you'll be able to pick up on those signs when you spend time with your family members. And so we talked about goals in a relationship, your individual goals, your goals together, and your goals as a family. We talked about priorities based on your goals, based on what you have going on a daily or weekly basis, and then some essentials, some things that are more important than any money can buy in a relationship, and that's making memories and having traditions together in your family to remember forever and to pass on from generation to generation. So all these things are things that we found were beneficial in our relationship,
Absolutely.
things that we're continuing to make better, make even better. It is never, I think somebody mentioned that in one of the comments, it's never too late to grow. You know, there's things that we didn't do at the beginning of our marriage, and we're like, man, I wish we would have done that when we first got married. I wish we would have done that when we had our first child. But even though we didn't do it, it's never too late. We're doing it now because it's never too late to grow. It's never too late to get better. And we're sharing it with other people so that they can do it. If you're young and you're in a relationship, then it's important that, hey, you do those things now. That's why we're telling you, not because we're, like Chris said, not because we're perfect and we got it all together, but we're striving every day, and we have chosen never to give up and never to, you know, feel like we have to be perfect, because nobody is perfect and we're never going to be perfect, but we have to continue to get better every single day. And that's what we have purpose to do, is to get better in our relationship, get better as individuals. And in turn, just the whole entire family will get better. The environment gets better.
Absolutely. And, you know, our focus has been, you know, we wanted to not only to enrich our relationship, but enrich the relationship of others. there's so many good things out there, and oftentimes all we see is the negative. So we wanted to bring some encouragement to couples. We wanted to talk to that individual that's about to start a relationship and wants to know the right things to do. We want to talk to that. Before you get married, we want to talk to that. Maybe that couple that's having maybe a hard time with balancing their relationship, so that they can understand that as they work through these things, that they can get better, get stronger, and draw closer together. Also to the relationship that may have lost some of the passion and the fire. We want to bring back that passion and fire back into relationships, and we want everybody to know that you don't have to have it all together, but as long as you commit to that relationship, as long as you believe that you can get better, you start speaking life into that relationship, you will see a tremendous growth and a tremendous change in that relationship. One of the quotes that we recently had heard from Dave Ramsey, he had said, live like no one else so that you can live like no one else. And it was funny because that brought me back to a place where I was thinking, okay, so live like no one else so that you can live like no one else. Okay, so initially it's about finances, and he talks about, you want to live, very, disciplined lifestyle, manage your money right, structure everything so that you're, taking care of debt, making sure you're not falling into debt. And then when you get older in life, you can actually, live like no one else. You can live abundantly. And so that made me think. And so I came up with this quote, think like no one else so that you can think like no one else. Right. And so if you think about your relationship and you start thinking, my wife loves me, my wife adores me, I have a great relationship, I, have a great marriage, and you start thinking about these things, and you start putting these things into the atmosphere, you're going to start seeing yourself thinking like nobody else, because people always think the negative. They quickly think about the things that are hard, like, oh, she's thinking I'm doing this, or I'm not, I'm not good enough. Think like no one else so that you can think like no one else. And with that, next week, we're going to try to see if we can have our little sister on live with us. We're going to have Alexis and Tyrone on with us to talk about trust in a marriage and overcoming, trust issues in a marriage. So we look forward to hearing from you guys.
Thank you guys for joining.
Yes. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Betty. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Ryan. We see you guys. We hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Thank you for joining us live, and feel free to like, share, and get people to listen to it.
We'll see you next Friday. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Happy Black Friday shopping.
Bye.